Commander Zektor stood on the bridge of the Imperial warship, his forearms crossed as he studied the blue planet below. Earth floated in the void like a marble, defenseless and ripe for conquest. The Khalzarian Empire had conquered 1,000 worlds, and this primitive backwater would be no different. "Show me their military capabilities again," he ordered, his mandibles clicking with amusement. The tactical officer brought up the holographic display. Images of human soldiers appeared, carrying what the Empire's analysts had classified as primitive projectile weapons. The humans wore fabric uniforms instead of proper battle armor. They moved on 2 legs instead of 4, making them slow and unstable. Most amusing of all, they relied on chemical explosives and metal slugs instead of plasma weaponry. Their strongest warriors call themselves Special Forces, the intelligence officer reported. They train in various environments: desert, Arctic, mountain, and something they call jungle warfare. Zektor's eye stalks swiveled to focus on the jungle warfare footage. Humans painted their faces with plant matter, crawling through mud and vegetation. They communicated with hand signals and whispers. Some carried long rifles with glass tubes attached to the top. "What are those primitive tools?" Zektor asked, pointing at the scoped rifles. "They call them sniper rifles, Commander. The humans use them to attack from distance, hiding like cowards, instead of engaging in honorable combat. A single warrior might spend days waiting for one shot." The bridge crew erupted in laughter. The very concept was absurd to the Khalzarian military doctrine, which valued overwhelming force and direct assault. Why would any warrior waste days for a single attack? It showed weakness, fear, and dishonor. "And their detection capabilities?" Zektor inquired. "Laughable, sir. They rely on visible light spectrums and primitive heat sensors. Our stealth technology makes us invisible to their crude instruments. They won't see our dropships until we're already on the ground." Sub-Commander Vexal stepped forward, his armor gleaming under the ship's lights. As leader of the ground forces, he had studied Earth's military history extensively. "Commander, I've analyzed their combat records. These humans have never faced a technologically superior enemy. Their wars are fought between their own nations, using the same primitive weapons. They know nothing of plasma shields, neural disruptors, or gravitic mines." "What about their jungle fighters specifically?" Zektor asked, remembering something from the briefings. Vexal's 4 eyes narrowed dismissively. "They hide in vegetation and shoot from concealment. But our bioscanners will detect their heat signatures instantly. Our armor deflects their projectiles. Their camouflage is useless against our multi-spectrum vision. These snipers are merely assassins who lack the courage for true combat." The intelligence officer added more data to the display. "The humans have a saying, Commander. 1 shot, 1 kill. They take pride in efficiency over glory. Efficiency without honor is meaningless," Zektor declared. "What good is 1 kill when our warriors can eliminate dozens in open combat? These humans think hiding makes them strong. They will learn otherwise. What good is 1 kill when our warriors? What good is 1 kill when our warriors?" The hologram shifted to show Earth's jungle regions. Dense canopies of green stretched across entire continents. The Amazon, the Congo, Southeast Asian rainforests, vast expanses of primitive wilderness that the humans considered challenging terrain. "They've fought wars in these jungles," Vexal noted, "something called Vietnam and Burma. They struggled against their own kind using the same tactics. Imagine their surprise when they faced the Empire's might." Senior analyst Kartok, older and more cautious than the others, raised a concern. "Commander, perhaps we should study their jungle warfare more carefully. The humans seem particularly adapted to fighting other humans," Zektor interrupted. "Not the Khalzarian Empire. Our technology advantage is absolute. Our warriors are stronger, faster, and better equipped. What can their snipers do against personal shields? How can they hide from sensors that detect heartbeats from orbit?" The analyst persisted. "But sir, their military doctrine emphasizes patience and precision over direct confrontation. This could indicates cowardice." Vexal interjected. True warriors face their enemies. These humans skulk in shadows because they know they cannot win honorably. Zektor turned to address the full bridge crew. The humans have survived this long only because they haven't encountered a real military force. Their projectile weapons are antiques. Their tactics are based on hiding and ambushing because they lack the strength for proper warfare. Once we deploy our forces, they will surrender within days. The crew cheered, their confidence absolute. The Empire had never lost a ground campaign. Their powered armor made each warrior worth 100 primitive soldiers. Their plasma weapons could vaporize cover and concealment. Their dropships could deploy armies anywhere on the planet within minutes. What about their nuclear weapons? Another officer asked. Primitive fission devices, the weapons specialist responded. Our ship's shields can withstand 1,000 such explosions. Besides, they won't use them on their own territory. The humans are too attached to their planet to irradiate it. Zektor studied the Earth military footage one more time. The jungle fighters interested him slightly, not as a threat, but as a curiosity. How had such weak creatures survived this long? Why did they waste time perfecting the art of hiding when they could have developed real weapons? Deploy the scouts, he ordered. Have them map the major population centers and military installations. Pay special attention to these jungle regions, since the humans seem to think they're important. I want to know every detail before we begin the invasion. Yes, Commander. Should we worry about their detection? Let them detect us, Zektor said confidently. Let them see the Empire's might approaching. Fear will weaken their already pathetic resolve. As the scout ships departed, Vexal reviewed the invasion plans with his officers. The jungle regions were marked as low-priority, difficult terrain with minimal strategic value. The cities and military bases would fall first, decapitating human leadership. Any survivors who fled to the wilderness would be hunted down later. Remember, Vexal instructed his troops. The humans rely on primitive tactics because they have primitive minds. They hide because they are weak. They ambush because they fear direct combat. Do not let their desperation tactics concern you. Our superiority is absolute. The Empire's warriors prepared their equipment with practiced efficiency. Plasma rifles were charged, armor systems calibrated, and drop pods readied. Each soldier was a walking tank, protected by energy shields and armed with weapons that could level buildings. The very thought of human projectiles penetrating their defenses was laughable. In the intelligence section, junior analysts pored over human military history. They noted the strange obsession with concealment, the emphasis on individual marksmanship, and the reverence for warriors who could eliminate targets from extreme distances. But these observations were dismissed by their superiors as curiosities of a primitive culture. The humans have a term, one analyst reported. They call their best marksmen ghosts because they strike unseen and disappear. Ghosts are myths, his superior replied. The Empire deals in reality. Our scanners will reveal every hiding spot, every ambush position. These human ghosts will discover they cannot hide from modern technology. As the fleet prepared for invasion, confidence filled every deck. The Khalzarian Empire had crushed civilizations across the galaxy. They had faced energy weapons, antimatter bombs, and exotic technologies. What threat could possibly come from a species still using chemical propellants? The jungle regions of Earth were marked on their maps, noted as areas where humans practiced their quaint hiding games. The Empire's forces would sweep through them like every other terrain, sensors piercing the canopy, weapons vaporizing the undergrowth. The humans would learn that their trees and shadows offered no protection from a superior force. Zektor retired to his quarters, already composing his victory report. Another primitive world brought into the Empire's fold. Another species educated in the reality of their place in the galactic hierarchy. The humans with their bullets and camouflage would become another footnote in the Empire's glorious history. He pulled up one final image, a human sniper in training, covered in mud and leaves. Rifle steady as they waited for the perfect shot. The very concept made him laugh. One shot? One kill? The Empire would show them what real warfare looked like. Thousands of kills in minutes, entire armies swept aside by superior firepower. Enjoy your jungles while you can, humans, he muttered. Soon you'll learn that hiding is not strength, and patience is not power. The Empire comes, and your primitive ways will not save you. The invasion fleet moved into final positions, ready to bring Earth to its knees. In their absolute certainty, not one member of the Empire questioned why humans had spent thousands of years perfecting the art of invisible death. Not one wondered why Earth's military still trained snipers in an age of automated weapons. Not one considered that perhaps, just perhaps, the humans knew something about warfare that the Empire had forgotten. The scouts sent back their final reports. Earth's defenses were even weaker than expected. The jungle regions showed no significant military presence. Just scattered training camps and small outposts, perfect for the Empire's overwhelming assault. As the order to begin the invasion was given, the Empire's forces surged forward with unstoppable confidence. They would soon learn that Earth's hunters had been preparing for this moment far longer than anyone could imagine, and that sometimes the most dangerous predator is the one you never see coming. The first wave of drop pods screamed through Earth's atmosphere like falling stars. Inside each pod, Khalzarian warriors checked their weapons one final time, eager to begin the conquest. Major cities had been targeted first: New York, London, Moscow, Beijing. The plan was simple: overwhelm population centers, destroy military command structures, and force immediate surrender. Warrior Prime Gexar led the assault on what the humans called the Amazon Basin. This wasn't a primary target, but the Empire wanted to secure all regions simultaneously. His squad of 50 warriors would be more than enough to control thousands of square kilometers of primitive jungle. Touchdown in 30 seconds, the pod's AI announced. Gexar activated his armor's full sensor suite. The moment they landed, he would have complete battlefield awareness. Every heat signature, every movement, every hiding human would be revealed. His plasma rifle hummed with deadly energy, ready to vaporize any resistance. The pods slammed into the earth with tremendous force, their impact dampeners absorbing what would have killed unprotected beings. Gexar's squad emerged in perfect formation, weapons raised, shields active. The jungle around them was eerily quiet. "Sensor sweep," Gexar ordered. His lieutenant, Taro K, frowned at his readings. "Strange, sir. I'm detecting multiple life forms, but they're all small. Animals. Insects. No human-sized heat signatures within 500 meters. They fled when they saw us coming," Gexar concluded. "Spread out. We'll establish a perimeter, and—" The sentence never finished. Taro K's head suddenly snapped back, a small hole appearing in his helmet's visor. Purple blood sprayed across the jungle floor as he collapsed. The sound of the shot reached them a second later, a sharp crack that echoed through the trees. "Shields up! Enemy fire!" Gexar roared. His warriors raised their energy shields, forming a defensive circle. They scanned frantically for the attacker, but their sensors showed nothing. No heat signature. No movement. No electronic emissions. "Where did that come from?" a warrior demanded. Before anyone could answer, another shot cracked through the air. This time it struck a warrior's knee joint, the one spot where the armor segments met. The projectile, primitive by Empire standards, found the microscopic gap and shattered the joint. The warrior collapsed, screaming. "There!" someone shouted, firing his plasma rifle at a distant tree. The tree exploded in superheated flames, but no body fell. No blood marked a successful hit. Gexar realized, with growing unease, that they were shooting at shadows. "Move to cover," he ordered, though the words felt strange. The Khalzarian Empire never took cover. They overwhelmed enemies with superior firepower. But here, in this primitive jungle, they couldn't find anyone to overwhelm. Another shot. Another warrior down, this time struck in the neck seal. The sniper, for that's what it had to be, was hitting the tiny vulnerable points in their armor with impossible precision from an invisible position. "Use thermal imaging," Gexar commanded. "I am using it," his sensor operator replied, panic creeping into his voice. "There's nothing. The jungle is too hot, too humid. Everything gives off heat. I can't distinguish." The operator's report cut short as a bullet punched through his visor. 4 warriors down in less than 2 minutes. And they hadn't even seen their attacker. Fall back to the pods, Gexar decided, his warriors' pride burning at the retreat order. They moved in disciplined formation, shields overlapping, weapons covering all angles. It didn't matter. The shots came from different directions now, multiple snipers, all invisible, all deadly accurate. Each bullet found a weak point: knee joints, neck seals, visor edges, the small gaps where armor plates connected. By the time they reached the pods, 8 warriors were dead or crippled. Gexar's mighty assault force had been reduced without ever seeing their enemy. He screamed into his communicator, calling for orbital bombardment. "Negative," came the reply from orbit. "You're too close to a human settlement. Find and eliminate the attackers." "I can't find them," Gexar raged. "They're invisible to our sensors." "Impossible. Use your technology advantage." The connection cut off, leaving Gexar and his remaining warriors huddled behind their drop pods. Every few minutes, another shot would ring out. Any warrior who exposed themselves, even for a second, risked death. The snipers had infinite patience, waiting for the perfect moment. "Maybe they're using some kind of stealth technology," a warrior suggested. Gexar shook his head. "Our intel said they don't have that capability." But doubt gnawed at him. What else had their intelligence been wrong about? Meanwhile, across the globe, similar reports flooded in. The assault on New York had succeeded initially, with Khazarian forces seizing Times Square. But as they moved through the city, sniper fire erupted from windows, rooftops, and shadows. Warriors fell one by one, picked off by invisible enemies. In the forests of Eastern Europe, an entire company of Empire warriors simply vanished. They entered the woods pursuing fleeing civilians and never emerged. Search teams found only their equipment, neatly arranged in a clearing, with no sign of the 100 warriors who had worn it. Sub-Commander Vexal, leading the assault on Southeast Asia, experienced his own revelation. His forces had landed in what local maps called the Central Highlands, expecting minimal resistance. Instead, they found themselves in a nightmare. "Sir, we've lost contact with squads 3 through 7, his communications officer reported. "Lost contact? Clarify." They're just gone, sir." One moment they were reporting normal patrol status. The next, silence. Vexel snarled in frustration. This wasn't how conquest worked. The Empire arrived, demonstrated superiority, and enemies surrendered. They didn't just disappear into thin air. "Send reinforcements to their last known positions," he ordered. The reinforcements found nothing. No bodies, no signs of battle, no weapons discharge, just empty jungle and the oppressive feeling of being watched. Then the reinforcements started taking fire, single shots from impossible distances, each one lethal. "I need orbital scans of Sector 7, Vexal demanded. "Scanning now, sir." "Wait. This can't be right." "What?" "I'm detecting our warriors' armor signatures, but they're scattered. Individual pieces spread over several kilometers. And there are human heat signatures wearing our equipment." The revelation hit like a physical blow. The humans hadn't just killed his warriors, they had taken their armor, their weapons, their technology. They were learning, adapting, turning the Empire's own advantages against them. A priority message from Commander Zektor appeared on all command channels. "All ground forces report status immediately." The reports painted a grim picture. Of the 10,000 warriors deployed in the first wave, nearly 1,000 were dead or missing, not from massive battles or overwhelming enemy forces, but from patient, precise, invisible attacks. The cities were proving impossible to hold, as sniper fire made every street a potential killing field. The wilderness areas were even worse. Entire units vanished without trace. "This is impossible," Zektor raged from his command ship. "They're using projectile weapons, primitive chemistry. How are they defeating our warriors?" Senior analyst Kar Tak, who had tried to warn about human jungle warfare, spoke carefully. "Commander, it appears we underestimated their adaptation to terrain. They're not fighting us directly, they're using the environment itself as a weapon. Explain. The jungle snipers, sir. They're not just hiding, they've made themselves part of the ecosystem. Our sensors can't distinguish them from the background, because they've literally become the background. They've learned to mask their heat signatures, probably using mud and local materials. They know exactly where our armor is weakest because they've been studying armored warfare for generations. But our shields are designed to stop energy weapons and rapid projectile fire. These snipers are using specialized ammunition, probably armor-piercing rounds designed specifically for weak points. One shot, carefully placed, is all they need. On the ground, Gexar's situation deteriorated further. His warriors had tried everything: sensor sweeps, suppressing fire, even burning the jungle around them. Nothing worked. The snipers simply relocated, always invisible, always patient. They had turned the jungle into a weapon more effective than any plasma rifle. "Sir," one of his warriors whispered, "I think I understand now. They're not fighting like warriors, they're fighting like predators. They're hunting us." The word hunting sent chills through the squad. The Khalzarian Empire had always seen themselves as the apex predators of the galaxy. To be hunted, to be prey, it was unthinkable. Yet here they were, huddled behind cover, afraid to move, being picked off one by one. Warrior Jexval, young and still idealistic, made a fatal error. "This is cowardice," he declared, standing up with his plasma rifle raised. "I won't hide from Primitive." The shot took him in the throat, dropping him mid-sentence. The others didn't even try to retrieve his body. They had learned. Reports from other sectors painted similar pictures. In the African jungles, Empire patrols found themselves walking into invisible tripwires that triggered primitive but deadly traps. In the urban environments, every window potentially held a sniper. The humans had turned their entire planet into a killing field. "We need to adapt our tactics," Vexal reported to Zektor. "The humans aren't fighting a conventional war, they're using methods we didn't prepare for. Methods we dismissed as cowardice," Kartok added quietly. The worst reports came from a place called the Mekong Delta. An entire battalion of Empire warriors, 500 of the galaxy's finest soldiers, had entered the swampy region pursuing refugee convoys. Only 17 emerged, all wounded, all traumatized. They spoke of ghosts in the water, shots from empty air, and comrades vanishing without a sound. "The humans knew we were coming," one survivor insisted. "They've been preparing for this. Every tree, every shadow, every piece of ground, they've turned it all against us." Back in the Amazon, Gexar made a desperate decision. "We're abandoning the pods. Move to the river. Maybe we can." "Sir," his scout interrupted. "Movement in the water. Multiple contacts. Finally, target them." "Sir, they're logs, just floating logs." But Gexar had learned paranoia. Scan the logs. The scan revealed the truth. Human snipers had camouflaged themselves as debris, floating silently downstream. They had been watching, waiting, preparing to attack when the squad was most vulnerable. "Open fire!" Gexar screamed. Plasma bolts turned the river to steam, but the snipers had already submerged. They had observed, gathered intelligence, and vanished like smoke, just like ghosts. The Empire's technological advantages were proving useless. Orbital bombardment risked destroying valuable resources. Energy weapons announced their position with every shot. Advanced sensors couldn't detect enemies who had learned to hide from much cruder instruments. Personal shields drained power quickly in the humid jungle heat. "We're not losing to their technology," Vexal reported in a secured transmission. "We're losing to their patience, to their knowledge of terrain, to thousands of years of hunting experience we dismissed as primitive." The first day of the invasion ended with the Empire in control of several major cities, but at a cost no one had anticipated. The wilderness areas remained entirely in human hands, and even the cities weren't truly secure. As darkness fell, the real nightmare began. The night belonged to the hunters. Sniper teams that had remained motionless for hours began to move. They struck supply lines, communication posts, and isolated patrols. They used suppressed weapons the Empire's sensors could barely detect. They moved through darkness with a comfort born of evolution. Humans had been night hunters long before they were anything else. By dawn of the second day, the Empire's ground forces had lost nearly 3,000 warriors, not in glorious battle, but to an enemy they couldn't see, couldn't catch, couldn't understand. The primitive humans with their projectile weapons were teaching the galaxy's most advanced military, a lesson as old as war itself. Technology means nothing if you can't find your enemy. Commander Zektor stared at the casualty reports in disbelief. In all the Empire's history, they had never faced anything like this. Energy weapons, massive fleets, exotic technologies, all of these they could counter. But an enemy that turned patience into a weapon, that made invisibility an art form, that used the planet itself as an ally? Prepare the second wave, he ordered, his confidence shaken but not broken. Double the warriors, triple the sensors. These humans want to play hiding games? We'll burn every jungle, level every forest. They'll learn that the Empire always wins. But deep down, a cold realization was beginning to form. The humans hadn't spent thousands of years perfecting the art of the hunt because they were weak. They had done it because they were survivors, predators who had clawed their way to the top of their world's food chain through cunning and patience. And now, the Empire was learning why Earth's hunters had seemed weak. It was because true predators never reveal their strength until it's too late for their prey to escape. 3 weeks into the invasion, Commander Zektor stood before his war council, his forearms trembling with barely controlled rage. The holographic display showed a map of Earth covered in red markers, each one representing a lost unit, a failed objective, or a sector where Empire forces had been forced to retreat. 30,000 warriors, he said, his voice deadly quiet. 30,000 of the Empire's finest. And we've lost a third of them. Not to armies or advanced weapons, but to shadows and patience. Sub-Commander Vexal, his once gleaming armor now scarred and mud-stained, gave his report. Sir, the situation is unprecedented. The humans have turned our occupation into a nightmare. We control city centers during daylight. But the moment darkness falls, we lose them. Our patrols vanish. Our supply convoys are found empty. Drivers gone without a trace. What about the jungle sectors? Zektor demanded. Vexel's 4 eyes couldn't meet his commander's gaze. We've abandoned them, sir. Any force that enters doesn't return. The Amazon basin has become a graveyard. The Congo swallows entire companies. The Southeast Asian highlands. We've stopped sending warriors there. Cowardice, Zektor roared. Not cowardice, Senior Analyst Kartok interjected. Prudence. Sir, we need to accept what's happening. The humans haven't just defended their planet. They're hunting us. Systematically. Patiently. Effectively. The analyst brought up footage from a recovered armor cam. It showed a squad of warriors moving through what appeared to be an empty Vietnamese jungle. The timestamp indicated they had been patrolling for 6 hours without incident. Then, in the space of 90 seconds, all 12 warriors were down. The camera captured only the briefest glimpses, a muzzle flash from an impossible distance, a figure that might have been human or might have been a tree, and then nothing. This squad was eliminated by 2 snipers, Kartok explained. 2 humans with primitive rifles killed 12 of our warriors in under 2 minutes, then vanished completely. Our follow-up forces found nothing but ghosts. They can't just vanish, Zektor insisted. But they do, sir. They've learned to mask their heat signatures with mud and local plants. They've studied our movement patterns and know where we'll be before we do. They've turned patience into the deadliest weapon we've ever faced. Another officer presented urban combat footage. A Khazarian checkpoint in London, fortified with shield generators and heavy weapons. Everything seemed secure, until the commander's head exploded from a shot fired from over 2 kilometers away, a distance their intel had said was impossible for human marksmen. They're not just snipers, the officer explained. They're artists of death. Each shot is calculated for maximum psychological impact. They don't just kill, they terrorize. Our warriors are afraid to remove their helmets, afraid to stand still, Afraid to sleep, the War Council fell silent as more reports streamed in. In the Australian outback, human snipers had learned to use the heat distortion of the desert to hide from thermal sensors. In the Canadian forests, they had buried themselves under snow for days, waiting for the perfect shot. In the ruins of cities, they moved through sewers and service tunnels, striking from below. "Show them the Siberia footage," someone suggested grimly. The hologram shifted to show a vast, snowy wasteland. A full regiment of Empire warriors, 1,000 strong, marched in formation toward a suspected human stronghold. Then, from positions over 3 kilometers away, coordinated sniper fire began. The humans were invisible against the white background, their positions carefully chosen for maximum coverage. The regiment tried to advance, but each step forward cost them warriors. They tried to retreat, but the snipers had anticipated this. They tried to dig in, but the frozen ground and constant harassment made it impossible. Over the course of 18 hours, the entire regiment was eliminated by fewer than 50 human snipers. "They turned the terrain into a weapon more powerful than any of our technology," the reporting officer concluded. "They knew every sight line, every angle, every possible move we could make. They had infinite patience and perfect coordination." Warrior Prime Gexar, one of the few survivors from the first Amazon assault, had been brought up to provide first-hand testimony. His once proud bearing was gone, replaced by nervous twitches and constant glances at windows. "You don't understand," he told the council. "It's not about the killing. It's about the waiting. Knowing they're out there. Always watching. Always patient. We'd hear shots from kilometers away, not aimed at us, just to let us know they were there. Sometimes they'd wound instead of kill, knowing we'd slow down to help our comrade, making us better targets." He paused, his voice dropping. "They've been doing this for thousands of years. It's in their blood, their bones. We thought hiding was cowardice, but for humans, it's the highest form of warfare. They've turned invisibility into an art and patience into a religion." The true scope of the disaster became clear as intelligence reports poured in. Human sniper schools, once dismissed as quaint training facilities, had activated networks spanning the globe. Veterans who had spent decades perfecting their craft emerged from retirement. Olympic marksmen traded sport for war. Hunters who knew every tree and rock in their territories became invisible defenders. "Sir," the intelligence officer reported, "we've intercepted human communications. They're not just defending, they're teaching. Every successful tactic is shared globally within hours. They're learning from each engagement, adapting faster than we can respond." The most disturbing report came from occupied New York. Empire forces thought they had secured the city, but sniper attacks continued. Investigation revealed that humans had pre-positioned hidden shooting positions throughout the urban landscape during peacetime. Small concealed openings in buildings, false walls, hidden tunnels. They had been preparing for this possibility for generations. "How do we fight an enemy that thinks in decades, while we think in days?" one officer asked desperately. Commander Zektor turned to the holographic display showing Empire casualties. The numbers were staggering. But worse was the pattern. Traditional military metrics meant nothing here. The humans weren't trying to hold territory or win conventional battles. They were bleeding the Empire slowly, patiently. One perfect shot at a time. "What about increasing our bombardment? Burning the jungles?" he suggested. "We've tried, sir," Vexel reported. "The humans simply fade deeper into the terrain. Worse, destroying the environment eliminates our ability to use it for resources. We'd be conquering a dead world, worthless to the Empire. Then we increase ground forces. Sir, with respect, that would just give them more targets. Our warriors are trained for overwhelming assault, not for fighting ghosts. Every soldier we land is another potential victim for their snipers." The War Council erupted in arguments. Some demanded total orbital bombardment, turning Earth to glass. Others suggested biological weapons to flush out the hidden humans. But each option was countered by the same problem. The Empire needed Earth's resources and population intact. The planet was worthless if destroyed. As they argued, Emergency alerts flooded the communication systems. The humans had escalated. Sniper teams had infiltrated areas thought secure and were targeting command personnel exclusively. In the span of an hour, the Empire lost dozens of officers, each taken with a single, precise shot. They're not just soldiers, Kartok realized aloud. They're predators, and they've decided we're prey. Every shot is calculated to damage not just our bodies but our command structure, our morale, our very ability to function as a military force. The final blow came from an unexpected source. A priority message from the Empire's homeworld reported that human sniper tactics were being studied by resistance movements across the galaxy. Oppressed species were learning that patience and precision could defeat overwhelming force. The Empire's aura of invincibility, built over millennia, was cracking. Commander Zektor called for his personal guard, his most elite warriors. "We're going to the surface," he announced. "I'll show these primitives what real warfare looks like." His guards exchanged nervous glances. Going to the surface had become a death sentence for officers, but they couldn't disobey. The command shuttle launched, heading for the secured zone in North America. They never made it. As the shuttle descended through the atmosphere, a single shot from an experimental human railgun sniper rifle, fired from a concealed position in the Rocky Mountains, pierced the shuttle's armor at its weakest point. The projectile, moving at hypersonic speed, killed the pilot instantly. The shuttle crashed in the wilderness, and Commander Zektor found himself stranded in enemy territory. The rescue mission found the crash site 3 days later. The shuttle was intact, but empty. Tracks led into the forest, but they ended abruptly, as if the entire command group had simply vanished. The only sign of what happened was a message carved into a tree. "Welcome to our world." Sub-Commander Vexel, now in command, faced an impossible decision. The invasion had failed, not through lack of firepower or technology, but because the Empire had fundamentally misunderstood the nature of human warfare. They had expected to fight soldiers and found themselves facing hunters. The order to retreat came on day 25 of the invasion. As Empire forces withdrew to their ships, sniper fire continued to harass them. The humans didn't pursue aggressively, they simply maintained pressure, taking shots when opportunity arose, reminding the invaders that Earth's hunters were always watching. In the final War Council before departure, Senior Analyst Kartok presented his conclusions. "We failed because we confused technology with superiority. The humans spent thousands of years perfecting the hunt because on Earth, the patient predator survives. They turned their entire planet into a training ground for this moment. But they're primitives," a younger officer protested. "They use chemical propellants, they hide in mud, and they defeated the Kalzarian Empire with those primitive tools," Kartok replied. "Because they understood something we forgot. In war, the most dangerous enemy is the one you never see coming." The retreat from Earth became known as the Empire's greatest humiliation. Not because they lost to superior technology or overwhelming numbers, but because they were hunted to defeat by an enemy that turned patience and invisibility into weapons more powerful than any plasma rifle. As the last Empire ship left Earth's orbit, human snipers emerged from their positions. Some had been in place for weeks, living on minimal supplies, waiting for the perfect moment that never came. They had defeated the galaxy's most powerful military not through strength or advanced weapons, but through the ancient art of the hunt. The story spread across the galaxy like wildfire. The Kalzarian Empire, conquerors of 1,000 worlds, had been driven from Earth by hunters who refused to fight on the Empire's terms. Species everywhere began to reconsider their assumptions about warfare, about technology, about the relationship between predator and prey. On Earth, life slowly returned to normal. The snipers returned to their homes, their rifles cleaned and stored but never forgotten. Military academies across the planet updated their curriculums, incorporating lessons learned from the invasion. The ancient art of patience, marksmanship, and terrain mastery had saved their world. Years later, when other species asked how Earth had defeated the Empire, human diplomats would smile and give a simple answer. "We didn't defeat them. We simply reminded them that on Earth, humans are the apex predators. We've been practicing for longer than their civilization has existed." The Kalzarian Empire never attempted another invasion of Earth. In their military academies, Earth became a cautionary tale, a reminder that sometimes the primitive weapon in patient hands is deadlier than the most advanced technology. They learned what humans had always known. The most dangerous hunter is the one who has mastered the art of never being seen until it's too late. In the jungles, forests, and mountains of Earth, memorials were erected to the snipers who had saved their planet. Simple markers that told a powerful story that when the galaxy's greatest empire came to conquer, Earth's hunters taught them the true meaning of fear. They proved that patience is power, invisibility is strength, and that sometimes, one shot is all you need to change the course of history. The Empire had come expecting to face soldiers. Instead, they faced something far more dangerous, a species that had turned hunting into the highest form of warfare. Earth's hunters had seemed weak only because true predators never reveal their strength until the killing stroke. And when that moment came, the galaxy learned why humans had survived and thrived on a world full of predators. Because they had become the deadliest predators of all.